the key to ultras really is just being steady. Like, I know
being consistent,
yeah,
pacing yourself. Yeah. Running 100 miles seems impossible and maybe even kind of crazy. And it is, but we believe in big crazy dreams. That's why we ran 100 miles. It was such a life-changing experience for us, we decided to devote this podcast to preparing and inspiring you to run your first ultra race.
Are you ready to feel the highest highs and the lowest lows? Are you ready to do what you once thought was impossible? Are you ready for your Trail to 100? Thank you for joining us here on Trail to 100, the podcast made to help you finish your first 100-mile race.
You pointed at me. I don't know why you didn't just go along with it.
Thank you for joining us here on Trail to 100, the podcast made to help you finish your first 100-mile race. My name is Jacob Bateman, and joined along with me is my beautiful and lovely wife, Melody.
Hey, guys.
And today we are here to recap my most recent race, 55K that I did, and the lessons learned and takeaways from it here on the first episode of September of 2023.
Dang, can you believe that it's already September?
And that also means for our listeners out there who have been with us from the beginning, Melody is due with a kid in 1 month.
6 weeks.
Well, when this episode is released, it's a month.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's right.
So crazy. So anyways, it's been a eventful month of actually running for me, Melody.
Good. It has been.
Yeah.
I have not been running for a while.
Yes.
It's been an eventful month for me too, but not running wise.
Yes.
It's just been a weird time.
You've been getting ready for baby and going to kickboxing classes.
Yes, I've been having lots of fun at kickboxing.
And same with our child.
Yes, he likes to kick right along with me.
Anyways, so I had the opportunity to run the Skyline 55K up here in a local race. I decided to stay local for once. I really haven't ran a lot of races that are like within an hour of where I live. Most time, even though most races I do are in the Utah, Idaho area, it's always like a good 2-3 hours, if not more, of travel. So decided to stick to home, and I ran the Skyline 55K. And, I wanted to really, this was a race that I wanted to just kind of like send it and try to get my speed up. And of course, as always, what happens to me after a 100-mile race is my training was very inconsistent.
Did you do any of the speed work that I gave you?
A couple things, maybe 2.
Moral of the story, you can't do 2 speed sessions and expect to
get faster.
Get done faster.
Yes. And it was very inconsistent training for me. I had started a new job and was dealing with that stress, and I know that's not an excuse really, but I used it as
an explanation, not an excuse.
An explanation of why I, and with dealing with that and figuring out the new routines of life and everything. And then also, I don't know why, but I just, after I run 100 miles every year, I normally take a couple months off, 2 to 4 months.
Which, honestly, I feel like that's healthy. I feel like it's healthy to take time off. I will say this, though. If you take time off, you need to replace your exercise with a different kind of exercise.
Yeah.
And not just do nothing for 2 to 4 months,
It's okay to do less, but don't do nothing.
No, honestly, take a break, and that's a great time to focus on strength training or maybe just doing things that you normally don't do in the training season that you enjoy doing, like group fitness classes. I love group fitness classes. Or, I don't know, just other things like if you like rock climbing or swimming, or, it's a good time to do that stuff. So.
And then also, I think, and I'll get to this race recap and my takeaways here, but one of the reasons I didn't perform how I wanted to was most of my long runs were hikes with you.
Yeah.
And so I
it's
wasn't
my
really
fault.
getting
Just kidding.
I wasn't really getting used to that, maintaining that kind of speed for that
You were
duration
getting
of
time on your feet, which
Yeah.
that's important when your goal is to just finish. But
Yeah.
if you want to get faster, you're not going to get faster by just hiking.
Yeah, exactly. So anyways, leading up into this race was kind of funny though, because I got wrangled into from my work. I'm working a healthcare job. I'm an x-ray tech, guys. And I ended up having to take call the night before the race. And the race starts at 5 a.m. So we had to leave our house at 4 a.m. to be at the start by like 4:45. And
you worked until what time?
I got home at 2 in the morning. So I slept.
And it was a crazy day because it's like you came home and then you're like, I don't think I have any more x-rays. And then you got x-rays and you had to go back out.
Yeah. So I just completed a like 14-hour work day. Completed it at 2 a.m.
Jeez.
And then slept from 2:30 a.m. to 3:30 a.m.
Good 100-mile training.
Yeah. Woke up at 3:30 and I was running up the mountain at 5. Kind of crazy, right? I get home at 2 a.m. It's like, well, 3 hours from now the race starts.
I do have to say though, babe, I feel like you're pretty good at moving on not a lot of sleep.
Yeah.
I do feel like that's one of your strengths.
Yeah, and that 1 hour of sleep actually felt really good. Like I felt pretty refreshed when I woke up at 3:30.
Fine in the morning.
Yeah, I felt fine. Like if I had slept 5 hours, which I typically get on a race night, or 1 hour, I almost felt the exact same. But anyways, it was great 100-mile training to run on lack of sleep. So I was just going into it. It's like, you know what? Let's just send it. Let's see what happens. So here's what happened in the race. I sent it for the first half. The race starts with basically a 4,000-foot climb up the mountain Ben Lomond, which is actually the mountain we ran on for our first 100-mile race, our self-supported one. So it was cool to run an official race, I guess, on where it all started. So I'm very familiar with this mountain, right? I'm very familiar with these trails.
We've been all over.
I've been
these
on
trails.
them all. I know the course. Like there's no taking a wrong turn for me on this course. And like I won't be shocked by the scenery or anything. Like I was there to race. But a couple years back, I've never been a competitive runner, really since I've started. I've always been back of the pack. And a couple years back on a 25K, it wasn't the most competitive 25K, but it had, I don't know, somewhere between 50 to 80 runners in it on this 25K, and I ended up getting 5th overall. And like I was shocked, and that was a race where I just decided to send it. I remember that night before and the morning of, I was like, I'm giving it my all on this, and it turned out really well.
Well, this is how we decided maybe 25Ks are your strength.
Yeah. Yeah, I got 5th, and but it wasn't a terribly competitive field on that. But still, I was like, wow, maybe I can actually get my speed up and be, a upper packer if I just really cracked down and started really training. Or if I thought maybe like, you know what? I've been training for this race, for the past 5 years doing ultras. That's what I was telling myself before the race that morning of and the night before. Because I wanted to really try to do well on it. And I was like, I got 5th at that one race. Let's see how this one goes. Anyways, this was a pretty dang competitive field. And I hit that first climb, and it was around 4,000 foot climb. And I was top 20 when I got to the top of the mountain for sure. Maybe even top 15. I think I was probably top 15. And there's this girl, and she's been on our podcast before, guys. You go check out her episode, Andrea Christensen.
I think, wasn't she the first person we ever interviewed? She was one of the
I think
first.
she was our second.
Okay.
First or second. Yeah, top 3 for sure.
So go back and listen to that episode, but our podcasting skills are probably not great.
Yeah, but Andrea's an awesome person.
She is.
And so I actually shared a couple miles with Andrea going up the mountain Ben Lomond. And Andrea is a very competitive runner here in the state of Utah. She wins a lot of local races or podiums in a lot of local races. So very good, very strong runner. And so it was cool to be able to talk with her. And, and I was actually kind of shocked that I was with her at that speed, because I'm like, she's not going terribly fast. She was probably doing 16, anywhere from 15 to 17 minute miles up the mountain, which is that's a solid pace, but it's not because
not like someone who's going to podium pace.
Yeah, or at least in my eyes. Not so at that time. I'm like, dang, Andrea, like I was actually thinking, like, are you like, not feeling too hot today? Is this just a training run?
Why didn't
I
you
had
think,
that.
wow, I'm really strong and awesome because I'm keeping up with Andrea?
Yeah, and then I ended up passing her, and I made it to the top of Ben Lomond before her. And I remember thinking, wow, like I must be cooking if I'm in front of Andrea right now. And anyways, so long story short, I made it to the top of Ben Lomond. That's like 8 miles in, and I'm feeling good. And I start running down, and it's like another 8 mile now descent. And I'm not the strongest downhill runner on maintaining a high speed downhill. That's not my thing.
Unless you're running downhill on snow, then somehow you're really, really good.
Yeah. And so I start getting passed up as I'm going down the mountain by a lot of solid downhill runners. And that's where Andrea passes me, probably about 10 miles into the race. And then anyways, so then I get finally to the bottom of this 8 mile descent. So I'm almost about halfway through the race. It's a 55K. So we're talking like it was 34 miles, just over that.
But now he has another mountain to climb.
Yeah. And now you go up on another mountain. Yeah, I gassed out. Like,
see, there's your 25K right there.
Yeah,
that's
there's
why
my
we're
25K.
Like, maybe that's just what you're good at, is the 25K.
Yeah, I gassed out. Climbing up the next mountain, I just gassed out. And anyways, and then it was just kind of a grind to the finish. I knew I was going to finish, but I also knew it was going to be a grind.
It's kind of interesting getting to a point in ultra running where it's like there's no question about whether or not you're going to finish anymore, right?
Yeah.
It's like this is when it becomes, okay, let's try to get our speed up and let's try to PR, let's try to improve.
Yeah, and that's where I'm at right now. Like,
yeah.
I know I can run a 55K with, it was just over 7,000 feet of climbing, I think. I know I can do that. And so that's why I wanted to challenge myself and kind of feel what it's like to really then like push yourself on the speed aspect. So I'm glad I got to get to know. And so I ended up finishing like, what was my finish? 8 hours, 45 minutes.
Something like that. Yeah.
8 hours, 45 minutes, 34 miles, 7,000 feet of vert. But there was a couple out and backs still. And I actually ended up seeing Andrea a couple more times on these out and backs, as of course I'm headed up and she was on her way back. And I was just so impressed with, as I watched Andrea during this race. This is what's kind of cool about races that have out and backs or even looped races, that you get to see the people who are more elite and how they do it, versus a point to point where you see them at the finish and then all of a sudden you just hear they finished 12 hours before you.
Yeah.
You're at mile 60 and they've finished on a 100-mile race.
Basically.
But I was very impressed with how Andrea just had this solid speed that she maintained. And like even like those first like 10 miles when she passed me, I think she was in 4th or 3rd of the women, and she ended up taking 1st. And I hope Andrea's not weirded out that I'm just talking about her on this podcast.
Hopefully she's flattered.
Yeah.
Maybe she doesn't even listen to our podcast.
Yeah, probably not. But I was just so impressed at how she just kept the solid pace. And she was at the finish when I finished. And so we were able to talk with her. And I told her how impressed I was with her. And she's like, yeah, she's like, I've figured out that these are my paces that I go. You know, this is the pace I go uphill. This is the pace I go downhill. And my goal is to run that pace the whole race.
Well, she's like, I just have one speed.
Yeah.
She's like, I can't go faster. I can't go slower. I just run, and this is my speed.
Yeah.
And she just maintains it the entire run.
Yeah. Now her downhill speed was faster than her uphill speed. I'll tell you that.
Yeah. She does seem like a strong downhill runner.
And looking back, like I flamed out. I mean, I didn't train at that higher speed enough for my training process.
Well, you haven't trained running that fast for that
exactly,
long.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I haven't trained running that fast for that long, so it makes sense why I burned out. But like that really made me think with Andrea, like the key to ultras really is just being steady. Like I know
being consistent, pacing yourself. Yeah.
Find that pace that you know works for you, you know, and hit it, keep it. Like when you're going out on a 100-mile race, don't go out hot. You know, just understand that like other people are going to be going out hot like me, and you're going to be passing them in the second half of the race because they'll be burned. But you'll still be at that same pace that you started with because you've trained that. You understood your goal. So it's made me think like now as I'm signing up for future races and things, I want to think about, okay, you know, rather than like, let's see how fast I can do this.
Which that's a good strategy if you're doing a 5K or a 10K.
Yeah. Rather than that, like, okay, what is a pace that, you know, is going to push me and maybe, you know, help me potentially set a PR or whatever it is. What if you just want to finish the race? Figure out the pace you need to go to finish that race, and maybe give yourself a little bit of buffer. You know, you don't obviously just want to do the slowest pace possible the whole race, but figure out a pace that you think you could possibly maintain, and then keep that whole race, and start really working in your training to get that pace down and get so comfortable running that pace.
That's the thing is, you know, we've talked a lot about 80-20 running on this podcast, especially in the very beginning episodes. And just recap, 80-20 running is 80% of your running volume is done at a very easy pace and 20% is done at a very high pace, and then you avoid the middle, right? That is the very like basic concept of 80-20 running, but it actually is really important to spend time in your zone 3 because that's usually where you're racing. So it's about finding, I know that's kind of complicated, but
you gotta plan in some zone 3 runs. Some regular zone 3 runs. You need to
practice running at the pace that you're gonna be running on race day. And I just want to add this too, just as a little random piece of information. You need to practice eating at the pace you're gonna be running at. Because if all of your running is done slow, maybe your gut gets used to eating while you're running slow. And now it's race day, now you're running fast, and your gut has no idea how to run that fast and also eat food. So it is important that you are training at your race pace goal.
It's just made me rethink things. There's a race that I'm thinking about signing up for in November.
Oh, I thought you said you were going to sign up.
Yeah.
I already made your plan.
Okay.
For it, so
now I better sign up.
Just kidding.
So here it is. I'm signing. So my goal actually recently with my training has been throwing in more like 50Ks to 50 milers, like that sort of distance, because I need more race day experience is what I've determined from my last 100. I need to get better at getting through an aid station a little quicker,
Even if you're not racing all these races, it's
Yeah.
just smart to be in the race environment and to practice those
Yeah,
things.
I need to get more nutrition practice. Like, yes, I just need more practice at simulating a race day experience.
I think the mindset training is good too. Like learning, there's just, the energy is different and your mindset is a little bit different on race day,
Yeah. Yeah, and so that's what I've been thinking lately, and that's why one of the reasons I signed up for this 55K and why I'm going to now sign up for this. It's a 40-mile race. It's put on by the Tooele Trail Races. Yeah.
Yeah, the Tooele Trail Racing Series.
Tooele Trail Racing. That's what it's
Yes.
called. It's put on by Tooele Trail Racing. Jimmy Thomas, former guest of the podcast, puts it on. Go check out his episode if you haven't. Awesome dude, one of my ultra running heroes. And it's this is one of kind of a backyard style format race, which I've never done before. But there is an end. It's not like your crazy 24 or 72 hour or last man
It still is a
standing,
crazy
but it's still
race.
pretty intense. So it's 5. So it's an 8-mile loop with 2,000 feet of vert, and you have to do it in under 2 hours. And if you don't get it in under 2 hours, then you're cut from the race. Meaning you have to be lined up at the start line as, when the 2-hour mark rings, and you have to leave the aid station right the start finish right at 2 hours. So you can't come in and then just hang around and then leave. So you have to leave every 2 hours. And there's 2,000 feet of vert on each loop, and there's a maximum of 5 times that you can do it. So that would be 40 miles. Jeez, I get scared just saying that. That means that's a good race for me if it scares me, right?
Yeah.
And the reason is I know this is going to push my speed. And I want to do all 40 miles, all 5 loops, all 40 miles. And it's the Saturday after Thanksgiving, probably going to be cold, might be snowy. But the goal is to get out there and do it and see if I can increase my speed. And I'm going to have to be efficient with the aid station and just be able to roll through it. It's going to be challenging. So
This is a great training race.
yeah.
Because you do, I mean, depending on how fast you get the loop done, you do get kind of a little break before the next loop. So this is a good training run to, practice running fast for a long time.
Well, it's going to have me running paces that, practicing running fast, because I'm going to have to run fast to do each loop. I'm going to have to be under 15 minutes. Like, honestly, I'm going to have to probably be trying to get around 13-minute miles.
Yeah.
So that way I have time in the aid station to refuel.
For sure.
So it's going to be fun, and I'm going to see if I can last the whole time.
I'm excited. I'm also super excited to start putting more speed work in your plan, which I already have. Have you done any of this the last couple weeks?
No.
Because I've been wanting
I did
about
one
them.
last week. I did one last
How
week.
was it? Which one did you do?
I don't remember.
Okay. I always try to talk training with Jacob. I'm like, this is how I felt on this run, or I did this new speed workout. Let me tell you about it. And he's just like, oh, okay. Or I'm like, so how was your run this morning? And he's like, it was good. And I'm like, no, tell me your heart rate, tell me your paces, tell me what you did, where you ran, what you learned. Like that's what I'm waiting for.
Yeah, my response is good. So, anyways, guys, I'm recommitting. I've signed up for a race that scares me. So I know that I will start training more consistently because of that.
Heck yeah. And it helps. You really thrive off of having a plan.
Yeah. And I thrive off of having a race that scares me too.
Yeah.
I think reason I was so inconsistent with Skyline, it's like, well, I know I can do it.
See, I think it takes more willpower and motivation to get faster at a race. Because it's like you already know that you're going to finish. And it's like, I feel like it's hard too at kind of our level where we know we're probably not going to win the race.
Yeah.
So like that's not really motivation for it. So I think you have to dig a little bit deeper to find that motivation and that willpower.
To just get a little bit stronger.
Yeah, I think maybe it would help to look
improve.
at a like bigger picture. Like maybe I'm not going to get first place on this run, but maybe if I keep this training up and I work really hard now, maybe in a few years I'll be able to get first place, you know? I don't know. Maybe that could help.
Who knows? Maybe one day.
Yeah, but speaking of wanting to get first place, I wanted to add my little tidbit of what I learned at Skyline because I was there crewing. So Andrea Christensen came in a couple hours before you came in. I'm not saying that to
Get
rub
that.
it in.
We were at the same spot at the 10-mile mark, and she finished a couple hours before me.
I started to say that, and I was like, maybe I probably shouldn't say it that way. Anyways, I should have just said she came in before you. Anyways, she came in before you did, and me and her were talking a little bit, and I never ask runners, like, what did you place? Because I just feel like that's just something you don't ask, you know?
Yeah.
But it just came out of my mouth because I know that Andrea is good, and I figured she probably placed, and so I was like, what did you place?
I asked her that,
Did you?
actually. I think that was me.
And I immediately regretted asking her, like, as soon as it came out. I was like, oh, that felt yucky. Like, don't ask people that, remember? Anyways, so I asked her, and she's like, I got first, and what was interesting is I was like, wow, like, congrats, that's awesome. And she was like, yeah, you know, it wasn't my best race. And she honestly she was disappointed in herself. And she talked about how it just wasn't her best race and how her splits were a lot slower. This is a race that she does every single year. And it was just interesting to me. And I think a lot of people would respond with, geez, like, if I would do anything to get first place, like, what are you complaining about, you know? But the thing is, she wasn't running to get first place. She was running to do better than she did before. She was racing herself, which was really impressive to me. And she was disappointed because she felt like she could have done better. And I don't know, it made me think, like, podiuming or placing, it really isn't that important. I mean, it's cool, it's fun. You get cool bragging rights, you get a cool trophy that you can hang up in your room, you can take a picture of it, post it on Instagram, you know, that's all fun and stuff. But it really is about, like, how did you learn, how did you grow, and then how much effort did you put into the training? And, you know, did you do better than you did last time? It's about competing against yourself, right? That's just something that I've been thinking about a lot lately. And anyways, so I totally understood and I kind of sympathized with her, and I was like, I'm sorry, like, that's rough when you go into a race and it doesn't turn out the way you want it, you know?
That ultimately the competition is against yourself.
Yeah.
You know, we do this sport for the most part not to beat others, but to improve yourself in your life.
Exactly.
Right? That's why we do this sport, and that's what makes this sport beautiful. You know, like, I want everybody out there on that course to do the best that they can.
To have a good race and to learn something.
Yeah.
And even if you don't have a good race, you're going to learn something on every race.
Yep.
You know, and that's what's important. That's why you do it.
Yep, exactly. And that, I think what her answer to you exemplifies that. It's not about your place. It's not about who you beat. Even if you do make it to the top of Ben Lomond before someone else.
You know, and it's okay. Like, healthy competition is good.
Yeah, it's good. I love healthy competition. But ultimately,
you just want to get caught up in it.
Ultimately, you are really competing against yourself in this sport. I mean, that's why it's an ultra. Right. Yeah.
Well, and I was thinking, it's like, okay, we can go run a 5K, and I feel like, well, not for me right now, because I can't even run across the street right now. What?
I wouldn't win a 5K.
You would probably win your age group.
No.
You have before.
Okay, I have before, but that was when I was a road runner.
That's when we were marathon training.
Yeah.
I feel like I feel pretty confident that I could sign up for like a local 5K and place in my age
I think
group,
you could.
you know,
Not me.
at least not pregnant. Unless they had a pregnant category, I feel like they should. But anyways, I feel pretty confident that I could do that. And, you know, so I could do that and I could go get first place in my age group, get a medal, post it on Instagram, hang it up on our medal wall. Or I can sign up for a 100-mile race where I know realistically I do not have a chance at podiuming. And, you know,
Unless there were 3 girls.
yeah, maybe I could podium in my age group because I'm young. But we're getting older, and I feel like ultra runners are getting younger and younger. But
Yeah.
anyways,
It's not. We're not.
we're not the youngins anymore.
No.
Yeah. But anyways, or I could sign up for a 100-mile race and get last place, but it would be so much harder, and I feel like it would be so much more rewarding, you know?
Mhm.
So, and I kind of found myself in that last year after we did 100 miles. You know, you've heard my journey on this podcast, and I've just been trying to figure out, like, okay, what I want to sign up for. I've done some 50Ks, some 50 miles. Haven't quite felt ready to do 100 miles again. I also signed up for shorter distances where I did podium because I was like, maybe it would help for me. Like, maybe that would help my confidence to, like, win some races and get some trophies, you know? And I did, and it was fun. But honestly, like, the races that I won last year didn't even come close. Like, the fulfillment I felt wasn't even close to, like, the fulfillment I felt when we did our first 50 or our first 100, you know? So anyways, so what I'm saying, like, what's been on my mind lately is the trophies don't matter. The placement doesn't matter. It's about the effort that you put in. Are you doing something that scares you? Are you learning? Are you growing? And are you proud of what you did? Do you feel like you did the best you could?
And ultimately, I have a goal to run Leadville one day. And
Heck
so
yeah.
I need to start doing some of this training to increase my speed so I can one day do Leadville. Because
That's what
right
I'm
now I
talking
know
about.
I'm too slow for Leadville right now.
You'll get there.
Yeah.
You'll definitely get there.
Yeah. So anyways, that was my takeaways. My main takeaway was just, honestly, guys, find your pace, find the pace and keep it. Because honestly, like, I just keep going back to this. Andrea's pace wasn't crazy. It wasn't.
It was just consistent.
It was just consistent. So if you can find that consistent pace, sure, at first you're going to fall behind a bunch of runners. But in the second half of that race, you're just going to be cooking, and all those other runners are going to be dying like me. and that's what happened. And I thought that was such an amazing race strategy. I mean, it's so simple. I shouldn't have my mind blown away by it. But delete that.
Okay.
Saying that and then seeing it in action just really impressed me. And so shout out to Andrea Christensen for taking first at the Skyline 55K.
Yeah, thanks for teaching us so much.
Yes,
a couple
without
weekends ago.
even realizing it, she taught me a lot about pacing yourself in an ultra. And, you know, Zach Bitter even says it. Remember, he says, don't let your highs get too high or your lows get too low.
Stay steady.
Or else you're expending all that energy on your highs that you should be saving for later when you're feeling more low.
Oh, that's so hard. I feel like that's such a good life lesson, too.
Yeah.
Is it just stay steady and balanced? Man, I hate that, though. It's so hard.
Steady and balanced.
Yeah,
That's the trick.
That's hard, man.
That is the trick. Well, thank you, everybody, for joining us here on the podcast today. I know race season's kind of starting to wind down. The final races of, like, the summer season are starting to happen. And
a lot of our athletes are hopping into their off season and starting to work on other things.
Yeah, so we hope your guys' training has been going well. Please reach out to us on Instagram at trail to100 or through email at trail to100@gmail.com to tell us about your race day experiences, if you've had any crazy races or achievements or accomplishments.
Yeah, if you have any cool stories, we're always looking for fun people to be on the pod. If you have any cool experiences, or if you have any friends or family that have cool experiences, let us know.
Yeah. So Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Make sure you check out our website as well, trail100.com. We have T-shirts. We got stickers.
We have a self-defense course for runners.
Yeah.
That's something we don't talk about a whole bunch.
Yeah, Melody is a black belt in Kenpo Karate, and she created a self-defense course. So
you can feel more confident running alone on the trails.
Exactly. And
coaching. We also have coaching on there. If you're interested in hiring one of us as your trail running coach, we specialize in helping people cross the finish line of their first 100. All of the information is there, and feel free to reach out to us too if you have any more questions.
Yes, indeed. So thank you all for joining us today. And remember, if you want to run 100 miles, make it happen.
Hey guys, super exciting news! Pine Tree Running is now Trail to 100 coaching, and Jacob is officially a coach.
That's right. So if you're ready to take the next step in your training and run that race you've always wanted to run, we would be honored to help guide you on your ultra running journey.
At Trail to 100 Coaching, you'll receive a custom running plan with strength training options, constant communication with your coach, and you'll be connected with other runners like you who are also on their Trail to 100.
If you want to learn more, check out our website, trail100.com. Please feel free to contact us with any questions you have.
If you want to run 100 miles,
make it happen.